Thank you, Joe Pulizzi, so much. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Okay, so main subject of the interview, of course, is your new book. Okay, because it's Content Inc. It's the second edition. The first one was in 2015.
Correct.
So let me please read the title because I think it's great. Start a content first business, build a massive audience, and become radically successful with little to no money. Which I love that part of the title.
Exactly. Just at the end. Yeah.
Yes. So this book is for entrepreneurs who want to start a business based on content. So what can people find in the book and what's new?
Well, I think that the core idea behind the book is I think that launching with a product first strategy is a failed strategy. If we look at all the data that's out there and you launch with this, you have a great idea for some product or some service, most of those companies fail. And I think a better way to go about it is, what if you developed an audience first? So how do you develop an audience? You deliver valuable, relevant, compelling information over a consistent period of time, and you build that audience, a core niche. You become an expert. And then once you build what we call in the book, a minimum viable audience, then you can monetize that in many ways. What's new in this version is we did fiddle with the model a little bit. What I needed to know, because it's been so much time since, 6 years since we did the old version. In internet years, that's probably 1,000 years.
I know.
And we wanted to make sure, okay, what are the new platforms? What's not working? What is working? And what we found out is that, consistency on one platform actually does work. And the most successful, what we call them content entrepreneurs, are the ones that have multiple revenue lines, not just one or two. They have 4, 5, 6, 7 different revenue lines to be successful. And now we're seeing it's, I don't have the data yet. One of these days I'll get it. I believe that content entrepreneurship is one of the top 1, 2, 3 different ways that people are launching businesses today, because you only need a smartphone to launch the business. And it doesn't take a lot of money to get started. It's not capital intensive. And there's a lot of people following their passions and saying, this is what I want to do. I don't want to go into an office every day. I want to live I want to be financially free. I want to live the life I want to live. And so we're seeing this thing go forward. And probably the one other thing that we added in the book is on exit strategy, which I'm a big believer in, where a lot of people get started in the content business and then they're like, okay, well, what do I do after 2, 3, 5 years? Well, we talk about that journey, how you set up your goals, and how, if you ultimately want to sell or you want to go big, we have different options about how to get there.
Do you think that now is the time for content creators?
I think that if now is not the time, I don't know when the time would be. And here's the thing, what's a content creator? Everyone who has a internet device in some way is a content creator. My mom, who's on Facebook, is a content creator. The difference is, what's a content entrepreneur? A content entrepreneur, well, there's 2 different things, right? You have a marketer, you have somebody that's developing, trying to build a following to market products or services, and then you have somebody that's trying to build their own business. Obviously, the book's for both of those people, but I've never seen anything like this. I've never been so excited about what's going on, because technology has closed those gaps that we had. We've democratized the content. We are able to reach our audience wherever we're at today. And if you are a small business, you might even have an advantage over somebody with a big budget, because you're so focused and because you can focus on the needs and pain points of a particular audience that maybe a large enterprise can't. So that's why I'm a little biased toward the small business, because in a small, we both work with small businesses. We are small businesses. They get a little down. It's like, oh, I wish we had more budget. I wish we had more resources. But honestly, it's a little bit of an advantage if you deliver over a long period of time. There's big companies just don't have that kind of focus. There's much politics. You can be the leading informational expert for a group of people that other businesses can't.
You because in the book you say that you started this new edition at the beginning of the pandemic.
Yep.
So why did you have the need to update the book and come back to marketing if you were gone at all?
Yeah, I was done. I mean, I, as you know, I talk about the journey in the book. You know,
Yeah.
we sold our business in 2016 was as Content Marketing Institute. I took 2018 off entirely and then wrote a mystery thriller novel in 19 and released it right in the beginning of 2020, right before all the pandemic stuff started. And I'm like, okay, well, what do I do now? I actually started writing the second edition of the mystery thriller novel. And then I started to get a bunch of emails, direct messages on Twitter. All sorts of my friends were reaching out who were struggling with their jobs.
And you have the
Didn't,
tilt.
I'm sorry?
And you have the tilt.
Yes, exactly. Well, and that, yeah, that's basically what we did is I started getting reached out about this issue. Like, Joe, is this Content Inc. model you talked about in 2015, is it a thing? And it was so much that I started to see the trends and see that this is going to be bigger than we ever thought it was. I said, okay, this is where I should dedicate some time to. We launched a new company, as you said, called The Tilt, which is focused on helping content creators become content entrepreneurs. That launched in April of 2021. Started writing the new version of Content Inc. In the middle of last year, right at the height of what was going on with COVID-19. And I really said, okay, I've got to take this seriously. I could probably do more good here than write another mystery novel. So ended up going that direction. And like we're 100% focused right now on this audience and helping this group of people, become successful, become financially free, build audiences, figure out the right platforms, build monetization strategies. And so I thought I was out of it. Now I'm back in it.
You're on fire.
Yeah, and whatever. It's hard. This has been one of my passions, in my career for over 20 years now. And I was so focused on marketing and working with large enterprises. Nothing wrong with that. I still enjoy working with those companies, but I love working with small businesses and individuals because they can make decisions immediately. They don't have to get permission. We can go through a strategic session and they can say, yes, this is what we need to do. Let's do it. And in the next hour, they're working on it. So I love that.
Don't you think it's addictive?
Absolutely it is. And if you can make it through, we talked about this a little bit before. When you get started and let's say you find what we call in the book a content tilt, what's your area of differentiation? And you find your platform, am I on a podcast? Am I doing YouTube? Am I Twitch? Am I email? Whatever. If you can make it through the rough time, and the rough time is generally between start and 9 months. It's very, very difficult. You don't get a lot of feedback. You're just building your audience. You're actually just finding your voice. You might not know exactly what is my content tilt, what is my area of differentiation, which part of this audience should I focus on? But then you get to that 9 to 12, like the research will show 9 to 12 to 15 months, you really start to see things happen. You're building a minimum viable audience. You probably started to see return on investment, maybe some different revenue lines. That's when it really gets excited. So we have to, I've got to keep everybody, help keep everyone strong and focused, and this is going to happen and you're going to be okay for the first 9 months. Because if you have a little bit of doubt and you fall off, you've got to make it to that mark. This is a marathon and not a sprint. And a lot of people of course, I want immediate results. You're not going to get immediate results. You don't go viral right away. This is a long process. But if you do make it past that 6, 9, 12 month area, that's when most of your competition will go by then. They'll go on to something else. They'll say this doesn't work, whatever. Big companies will try content marketing campaigns, which is not a thing, by the way, and they'll do it for a short period of time, and then they'll stop. You'll keep going. It's a marathon, and then you could be successful long term. So yeah, it's definitely addicting, but you got to make it through that first part.
So you think it will take 9 to 15 months to monetize that effort?
Yeah, basically. So, but we did some research at the Tilt, and you can go to it's at thetilt.com/research, and it's free and open. You don't have to subscribe to anything. And we found out that in general, a content entrepreneur, it takes them 9 months to first dollar. Now you might say, well, is that a long time? Whatever. It's really not. It's really in this business, it's really not. So if you get to about 9 months to first dollar, and it takes, I think it's, what is the number? 18 months to hiring the first person and 24 months, I think, to hiring multiple people. So if you see basically, so you're 0 months to 24 months, you've got a full-fledged content business that's working really well, 2 years. So it takes 2 years to get this thing going. The consistency and figuring out the platform, you're going to spend the first 3 to 6 months experimenting and not knowing exactly where. I'll give, so you might start and say, oh, I'm going to target electrical engineers, but you don't know, okay, is there which part of electrical engineers, and do you really know all their desires? And do you start on LinkedIn, or do you start on doing a podcast, or you do so really you want to get to some point in the first couple months where you focus on one platform as your place to be instead of focusing on 5 or 6. Sometimes that takes some time to get there.
Mm-hmm. And I know it's a bit tricky question, but could you explain the phases of the content in business?
Sure.
Briefly.
Yes, I'll do it very briefly. So the first 2 are strategy. Everyone starts with their sweet spot. So what's the intersection of the audience's desire that you're targeting and your skill or knowledge base? So you kind of make a list of those things and you meld them together and you come up with, here's my content area to this audience. The problem is that you still have to break through all the clutter, and you're probably covering an area that a million other people are covering. So you have to go to step 2. Step 2 is the content tilt. This is the most important thing. You have to figure out what your hook is, what's your point of view, what is your area of differentiation, so you can break through all the clutter that's out there. Most companies don't go that far. They just stop at the sweet spot. They don't go to the content tilt. You have to find out what makes you different. Because if you just stop at the sweet spot, you'll look around and say, oh, look at all these other companies are talking about this idea in the same way. Like, do a search for cloud computing on the web, and you'll see Amazon, and you'll see IBM, and you'll see Oracle, all talking about cloud computing the exact same way. It's like, great. What good does that do? Nothing. They're not building an audience. It's not working for them. So you have to figure out, how are you going to approach that topic different, or how are you going to find a different portion of that audience to serve? So those are the first 2. And then the third portion is building the base. This is what we talked about. This is where it takes time. You're focusing on one platform instead of many. So is it a podcast? Is it a YouTube series? Is it an email newsletter? Whatever the case is. So that's when you're building your audience. And then the next step, the 4th step, is all about audience generation, audience building. And this is where you're probably starting to move from, let's say you started with a podcast, you're probably starting to build some kind of an email offering. It's very, very important to talk about building an email offering, because we can control that. You can't control, if you have, let's say you have a YouTube channel or a Twitch channel or a Facebook group or whatever, you don't control those algorithms. Those are private companies. They can kick you off the platform whenever. So we want to say, hey, it's great. Let's say you want to start like my friend started the Instagram channel called Accidentally Wes Anderson. He sends an Instagram picture out every day. That's great. And he's built over 1 million followers. But at some point, Instagram might boot him off. So he's creating his own website and his own email offering. So just in case somebody's messing with the Instagram, you have a backup and you're diversifying that way. So that's audience building. So we're all about how, just build all our subscribers, specifically email subscribers. And then the 5th step is revenue. You want to get to revenue as soon as you possibly can. But this is where you get to the first revenue. Maybe if you're selling a product or service, maybe it's, I'm selling more products, I'm selling more services. Maybe I'm keeping my customers more loyal. Maybe I'm finding the people that listen to our podcast are our best yielding customers. They're our most valuable customers. That's where you start to find these things. You also can drive direct lines of revenue like advertising and sponsorship. Maybe you can launch events, paid subscription, affiliate program. There's 10 different ways to do this, and we talk about that in the book. And then once you get to that level and you're doing figuring out different revenue lines, then you go and you can look at diversification. That's where you might say, I'm starting to look like a media company. So you might start with a podcast. Well, now you've got an event series. Then you've got a webinar series. Now you've got this YouTube channel over here. Now you've got a second podcast. Now you've got 2 email newsletters. You really diversify and become a fully integrated media type company. And you do this generally in 6 to 9 month spurts. So you don't launch them all at one time. You might say, let's say that you are wanting to launch a second newsletter for a second audience. You would figure out, okay, 6 to 9 months, give it time, build that audience. And then once you get to a certain level, then you can go and say, okay, now we can go and do an event. And the reason why you do that is what you realize is the more that your customers are subscribed to your content, so the more things that they're signed up for, generally, the better they are as customers. So I'll give you an example of this. At Content Marketing Institute, we had basically we started with just a blog. So we had a blog and an e-newsletter, and we had that for a long time. And then we added a podcast, and we added an event, Content Marketing World, and we added a webinar series and a research program and all sorts of things. And when we did our research, it took us a couple of years to get this research. We found out that our best customers, meaning the ones that spent the most money with us, were subscribed to 3 different things. Didn't matter which 3. They were subscribed to our blog, our podcast, and our webinar series, or they were subscribed to our email and went to the event and went to some of our other workshops or signed up to our training, whatever it was. Didn't matter which of the 3, those 3. That's why the 6th step of diversification is so critical, because that's where you take your business and that's where you see hockey stick growth. So generally, if you're looking at the model and how long it takes, the first couple of years, you're building an audience, you're just trying to figure out revenue and you're doing okay. When you get to diversification level, you shoot straight up, because you're starting to launch all these different revenue channels. You're starting to diversify. You become the leading informational expert in your niche, and it's wonderful. So if you look at our revenue, and I talk about this in the book for Content Marketing Institute, 2010, when we were started, I don't know, we had 50,000, 60,000 US in revenue. It's great, but not enough to support our family. We were definitely losing a lot of money. But by 2015, we had $10 million in revenue. And it went a little bit up and then boom, because of all these things that we're talking about. And then the last step is the whole new section of the book is Sell or Go Big. If you are a content entrepreneur, content creator, and you want to sell your business, we talk about the different ways to do that. And if you're a marketer running this as part of your business, we talk about how you can take it to the next level and really create this amazing content marketing machine inside your organization. So there it is.
But the thing is, okay, you say that it could take you like minimum 9 months or 12 tops to get your first dollar or your first euro.
Sure.
How can you survive? I mean, what's your advice?
What you want to do is get to revenue as quickly as possible. So what we see a lot of content creators doing, I take a side consulting gig over here, right? Or I'm going to join an affiliate program over here. You're not going to see a lot of revenue, and those are probably just test cases, but they keep the lights on. So I'm not saying wait until 9 months to get to revenue. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that's generally what people are doing. It takes that long until you have an audience that's valuable enough that you can actually monetize. But I left a corporate gig in 2007, and it took us 22 months from that point to build what I felt was 10,000 opt-in subscribers. That's what we were trying to get to. That was the number, our minimum viable audience number, that I felt that we had a viable business. Until then, I took all kinds of consulting gigs. Mm-hmm. I did speaking whenever, even for a couple $100 here and there, just to keep the lights on. I mean, we had 2 small kids at the time. You do whatever you can to make it. So you do whatever. You got a side job. I mean, I would love to have everyone have focus on their content creation business, but you do what you have to do until you get there. Now, if you're in a regular company and this is an initiative inside the company, you just keep marketing the way you're supposed to market. Don't change. Keep marketing your products and services. And this is a long-term asset. You know that in 9 months, 12 months, 15 months, it's going to pay off, but it's not going to pay off immediately.
Okay, yeah, because that was when I was reading the book, I thought, okay, this sounds great, but you gotta eat.
Absolutely, you do whatever you have to do to survive until you get to that point, and that's the thing. Most people don't. Most people give up. They say I can't do it, or they go, I'm going to go get a real job, whatever that means, and then they say they put off that opportunity. So you have to be patient.
So the key is you said constancy, and detailed. Very important. And here comes the channel dilemma. because you keep saying that. Well, you change your mind on that because now I read one of your articles in the content marketing industry. They say, oh my god, a few years ago I used to say that distribute your
be everywhere your customers are at online.
Exactly. But now it's like you're changing your mind like that. You gotta focus on one channel first and then expand.
Yeah, I remember I wrote a book with Newt Barrett in 2008 called Get Content, Get Customers. And we said, be everywhere your customers are at online, which was probably possible when you had just Twitter, Facebook, a blog, and that's it. Podcasts were just starting, all that kind of stuff. Today, what we found out is focus works better. So you figure, and it's not that you can't be on other channels, but you want one core channel to be your thing where the story is told. And you figure out that your content tilt, what's your differentiation, and then the consistency. So let's say you have that's a podcast for you. If your distribution is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you distribute Monday, Wednesday, Friday until the data tells you differently that you shouldn't be distributing it. So what happens with most corporate environments is they'll start a podcast, they'll have a YouTube channel. YouTube channel is notoriously bad, where you'll have a company that will go ahead and they'll put launch 2 videos in 1 week, and then they won't do anything for a month, and then they'll launch 3 videos. It doesn't work. You have to be consistent. You have to this is a promise to your customers that you want to deliver over and over again. So the consistency in all the data is so critical to make sure that you do that. And then when we go in and we'll do an audit of some of these companies, we never say, oh, you should be in more channels. What we'll say is you probably should kill some of the things that you're doing because you're basically mediocre at everything. We need to be amazing at one channel so that you can build an audience. You'll never do it unless you are truly amazing. So you might say, you know what, we're on LinkedIn. We're not investing what we need to invest there. So let's just use that as a listening tool, and we'll build connections there, but we're not going to spend a lot of time creating content there. We're going to take those resources and put it into our email newsletter or our YouTube channel or whatever that core platform is.
Because as I told you, I work with lots of small businesses, little entrepreneurs, and I have the feeling that they feel overwhelmed by all the things that they have to learn and do, and sometimes they get exhausted, So what could be your advice for them? Like, imagine that I'm having my own company. I'm on my own, and I have to do everything. How could start?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the recommendation is that the things that you're not good at and the things that you don't like to do, you need to outsource those. If you are an entrepreneur, you are already overwhelmed. You've already picked the craziest lifestyle. If you own a business, you're crazy, right? We're all crazy, because who does this to themselves? So you're like, what can I do to alleviate some of this burden? So there's even like with me, I'm terrible, as already know, I'm a terrible organizer. I wouldn't be on talking to you right now unless I had somebody that could schedule things for me. I learned that very early on in my journey. And I said, this business will not make it if I have to schedule my own meetings. It just won't. So we had somebody schedule my own meetings in that. And then from a process standpoint, I'm not very good at process. I'm very focused on strategy. So whenever we would start to grow the business, or there were things that were process oriented involved in things I was doing, I needed to get rid of those as quickly as possible. So you have to look at, okay, what's the value of your time? What are you trying to do? So, and this happen, it doesn't have to be you hire a person. It could be, I need someone to freelance, to contract out 5 hours a week to do these things. Get them off your plate. The more you can do that, and I know that costs money, but it will save you money in the long run, because you'll open yourself up for more strategy, and revenue generation will be close behind when you do that. Start to outsource those things. You will be a much happier person, and you'll be more productive, and you'll be more successful as a company.
Because time is money.
Yep, exactly.
So yeah, just 2 more. One is super important. After the pandemic, what do you say? What do you think is the difference between marketing and content marketing? before and after the pandemic? What's the future?
There will always be advertising. There will always be people that will interrupt others in channels, and whether it's good content or not. But I think that those people that just focus on advertising only, I think that they're going to fall behind. I think the most innovative companies, the ones that are really changing the world, are the ones that are building audiences. And I think more people are starting to realize that today. I mean, and just look at the number of content marketing people inside organizations today. That wasn't a case 10 years ago. That there were no content titles 10 years ago. I mean, we started Chief Content Officer magazine in 2011. That wasn't a title. It wasn't a thing. Well, now there's hundreds of them all over. There's content marketing folks everywhere. I think people are starting to realize that there's a land grab for audience. It's like, oh, they're all out there. How do we become and how do we build these communities ongoing? So that's one thing. The second thing is you're seeing a lot of acquisitions happen because of the pandemic, because there's literally more money. These companies have more money than they know what to do with in a lot of cases. I know we're talking about a lot of small businesses struggling, but if you're talking about bigger corporations, they're loaded. Most big companies have so much money and they don't know what to do with it. And the dollar's worth, at least in the United States, it's worth less and less because everybody's spending money and giving money out to people. Inflation is higher. What are they going to do with that money? Well, what they're going to do is they're going to buy content properties because they realize it's very hard to do it themselves. So if you are an individual content entrepreneur, you have the opportunity to be purchased. A friend of mine just sold his podcast for a good sum of money. The Hustle, which is an entrepreneurial email newsletter that goes out to millions of people, was just bought by HubSpot, marketing automation company HubSpot. These things are happening all over the place. So the pandemic has sped that up. So what you'll see in the next 12 to 18 months is more small content entrepreneurs, content creators selling their properties to very large companies with a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So if that's something you want to do, if you want to sell, the opportunity is absolutely there. Because it's hard for them, as we talked about before, it's hard for them to build audiences. They don't have the patience.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you in 1 year.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So when this in Spain, there's a saying that, especially when you're selling services, that you shouldn't say or give too much information when you're publishing your content on your blog, for example, because then why will they hire you when you are giving them the information already? Do you agree?
No, I don't agree at all. I would give everything away. And because it's a competitive advantage to do so, just because of what you're saying. Everyone else wants to hold back. You're going to be the one that's going to be authentic, that tells them the 100% truth, that gives them the secret sauce. And here's the thing. Let's say that let's say you're a consultant in whatever industry, and you want to say, oh, I want to hold back. I don't want to give them all the answers. Yes, you actually do, because the people that decide to do it on their own, you don't want that business as a consultant. Have them do it on their own. What you want is the people that say, oh my goodness, I trust this person. This is amazing information. I don't want to do it themselves. That's why people go to consultants, because they don't want to do it themselves. They want people, and you will get more business than ever before. When we did that at Content Marketing Institute, a large portion of our business was consulting. We never, ever went out on a sales call. All the business we came in, we had more consulting business than we knew what to do with, because we were giving away all the information all the time when other people were holding it back, and we just kept getting all that business. Now, if they want to go and take that and do it themselves, great. Go ahead, do it yourself. We don't want that business, because they're the ones that are going to probably try to say, oh, I don't want to pay that much, or that's the 2% we don't want. We'll take the 90% of people that absolutely don't want to do it themselves and want the leading expert. And how can you show that you're the leading expert in the world on something if you don't communicate it? So that's my take. And I believe a lot of people disagree with that, but I think that it's been proven over and over by how big some of these content entrepreneurs are getting, that if you give away whatever the secret sauce is in your industry consistently over a long period of time, you build an audience, you can monetize that audience in all kinds of different ways. And the person that's holding back is going to really struggle in getting leads for the business.
Mm.
Because how are they going to market that? Because, oh, we got this 7 steps, but I can't tell you the 7 steps until you subscribe to this and whatever. I'm like, get real. That's an old world model. That model's been dead for 20 years. So that's my take.
Content is key to trust. Anyway.
Yeah, how are you supposed to build a trusting relationship unless you deliver the content on a consistent basis? That's the whole idea behind content marketing. And if you don't deliver the content, then what are you doing? You're doing marketing the old-fashioned way, and you're saying, oh, we've got all these features and benefits, and hopefully that I can convince you through all that traditional marketing. That's a hard way to go. It's not that impossible to do, but it takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of interruption. I'd rather have somebody sign up for my e-newsletter, and I deliver something. You know, our e-newsletter at the Tilt is 2 times a week. They get that over, and they're like, oh, we build a relationship with them over time. And then when we launch whatever we launch, they're like, oh, yeah, of course. I've been trusting these people for 6-9 months. I'm absolutely going to buy something. That's much easier way to go. Just takes longer.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the last one, because I know we're short of time, and this is out of curiosity, because you say in your book that TikTok owns the best algorithm. Why is that? What do you think?
If you look at the addictive style and how quickly they learn your what you like as a consumer, just by you swiping and going to the next thing, and how long you stay on an image and whatever, they are creating addictive people to that form more than anyone else. And you can just look at the research and how when somebody gets started on TikTok and then they end up spending 8 hours on that platform, it's ridiculous. Now, I try to stay off of TikTok because I will get addicted, and I don't want to, because whatever they've done in their algorithm, they've absolutely figured it out. So, and that's, you know, good for them, and good if you're a regular content creator, it could work out for you. What I do like about that is that you could be a brand new content creator on the TikTok platform, and if your content is really good, it can go viral much quicker than it can on any other platform because of TikTok's algorithm. So that's what I will give to TikTok. And so, but it's also, you know, it's challenging. If you're a TikTok content producer, you've got to produce almost more than daily. And that's a tough way to go. Whereas a podcast, you could be a weekly podcaster, or an email newsletter every other week email newsletter. YouTube might be every day or 3 times a week. TikTok, Instagram stories, these are every day, every minute type practices, and it's a different way to live your life.
So, Joe, that's it. Thank you so much for being with us. Okay, I wish you the best. What can I say?
Awesome. Thank you. No, thank you. I know that was quick, but I hope that helps your audience a little bit.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm sure.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Bye.